हरिः ओम् तत्सत् सीताराम गुणग्राम पुण्यारण्य विहारिणौ वन्दे विशुद्ध विज्ञानौ कवीश्वर कपीश्वरौ. The elaborate descriptions of the battles by Rishi Valmiki amply illustrates to us the deep mystical vision he had and the large canvas of cultural, civilizational, and martial complexity that he is able to paint for us in the descriptions in Yuddha Kanda. Today, let us summarize Sargas 57 and 58 of the Yuddha Kanda. The death of Akampana plunges Ravana into a momentary, dismayed introspection. But he pulls himself together and proceeds next morning early to view from the high ramparts the status of Lanka's defenses. What meets him is the deployment of Rakshasa soldiers fiercely guarding Lanka's four gates. At the same time, the sight of the oceanic Vanara army surrounding Lanka is unmissable. Ravana calls Prahasta to his side. Look, O chief Prahasta, Lanka has been besieged by the enemy. The city and its people cannot rest until we get rid of them. The task is impossible except for me, Kumbhakarna, and of course yourself. The others are Indrajit and Nikumbha. I suggest you now take your entire forces and lead from the front. He says, Nardatam Rakshasendranam Shrutva Nadam Dravishyati. Just hearing the ear-splitting cries of the army under your command, Prahasta, will drive the enemy to melt away, he says. Prahasta, once the Vanara army melts away, Sri Rama and Lakshmana will come within your easy grasp. After all, in war, the outcome, death or life, is not certain. But dying a hero's death is infinitely superior to living on, since death is anyway going to come to everyone. Apply your wise and military strategic mind and come up with a plan. What can Prahasta say? Prahasta is a very, very capable Rakshasa warrior. He is a military chief, but he also has common sense. Prahasta replies, O Lord, Ravana, this matter was discussed at length among your advisers and ministers in the council. Many debates took place, but nothing was conclusive or unanimous. Let me tell you what I think. Pradhanena tu Sitayaha Shreyo Vyavasitam Maya Apradhane Punaryuddham Dushtameva Tathaiva Naha. As I see it, O Lord Ravana, the most favorable outcome will come by restoring Sita to Sri Rama with due ceremony. Otherwise, there will be war again, and we have seen its impact on our heroes already. O Lord, you have many times rewarded me and honored me generously. I am beholden to you and wish you well always. I don't care much for my life, my family, or my wealth. See how I will now go and fight the battle to end all battles and sacrifice my life. You can hear the wisdom in Prahasta's words. He is sacrificing his life for Ravana's impetuosity and stubbornness. But he has given him the correct advice, so his conscience is clear. Saying this, Prahasta orders that all the forces of Lanka are marshalled quickly. In a couple of hours, the huge Rakshasa army assembles around the palace. The Rakshasa warriors propitiate their deities, get blessings from Brahmins, and ready themselves with deadly weapons and shining armors and various garlands which they have got with some mantra incantations from Brahmins. Prahasta, mounted now on a glorious chariot that was splendid, was well stocked with weapons, and he was clad in shining armor and was driven expertly. The chariot made a thunderous sound as it hurtled forward. The accompanying noises of the military band deafened ears and covered all directions. Prahasta was accompanied by 4 lieutenants he always had: Narantaka, Kumbahanu, Mahanada, and Samunnata. Prahasta led the march triumphantly like Yama himself at the eastern gate. We must remember each of the gates was attacked by different Vanara heroes. The eastern gate was taken care of by Nila, who was anyway the military commander. The tumult of the army advancement shook the denizens of Lanka. There were ill omens as carrion birds. Carrion birds are birds which feed on dead bodies. Circled overhead in unholy directions. An ugly wind was blowing. The charioteer's whip slipped repeatedly from his hand, in spite of his being an expert charioteer. The horses stumbled and bit the dust. But all these starting troubles did not deter Prahasta. Prahasta's formidable army met with an equally strong Vanara contingent, ready with their own weapons, rocks, boulders, huge trees, and more than anything else, bubbling enthusiasm. Valmiki says Prahasta entered the battlefield much like moths rush to a blazing flame of death. Sri Rama noticed this remarkable warrior Prahasta coming. Smilingly, he inquired from Vibhishana, "Who is this warrior? So huge in size, so well armed, looking so confident. What are his strengths and weaknesses?" Vibhishana replies, "O Lord Sri Rama, this is Prahasta, Ravana's chief of the armed forces. He is accompanied by 1/3 of Lanka's total army. He is fierce in battle and has a formidable reputation." As he was saying this, the Vanara army saw the enemy and, roaring with great confidence, they encountered the Rakshasas on the march. A terrific battle started immediately. There were countless fatalities on either side. Whereas the Rakshasas killed with swords, maces, and arrows, the Vanaras relied on their missiles of trees and rocks, and many were able to strike fatal blows with their diamantine open palms themselves. They did not need any weapons, their arms and palms were so strong. Prahasta's lieutenants attacked with considerable success. Then Dvividha picked up a piece of a mountain and smashed Narantaka to death. The Vanara chief Durmukha now came, took a huge tree and killed the dexterous Samannuta. Jambavan struck a fatal blow with a huge rock on the chest of Mahanada. Kumbhahanu did not survive the blow of the Vanara chief Tara, who struck him with a huge tree. Prahasta did not take kindly to these acts of the Vanara chiefs in killing his lieutenants. He roared as he picked up his bow and started killing the Vanaras recklessly with his arrows. The battle was so fierce. Valmiki describes that the Rakshasa army and the Vanara army were both moving in vortex-like movements around one another. Valmiki describes in many shlokas the fierce battle that Prahasta launched and the mayhem that resulted from the relentless confrontation between the well-armed Rakshasas and the powerful Vanaras. In a most gruesome, gut-wrenching way, the descriptions are there. He leaves no detail untold about how the earth was flooded by blood, a river whose banks were dead bodies and broken armor and chariots and weapons, the flotsam of organs and entrails and hair and bones and skulls and so on was seen everywhere that would make anyone vomit. The shlokas show at least one thing. The foremost, the first and the greatest poet of Sanskrit, because he was a rishi, Valmiki, left no description incomplete, whether it was of nature or human behavior or emotions or battles. Nila now saw how much damage this formidable Rakshasa Prahasta was causing to the Vanaras with his rain of deadly arrows. He decided on a suitable response. Nila, who was a commander of the Vanara forces, attacked the Rakshasas like a whirlwind that scatters away even dense clouds. The Rakshasas began to flee for their lives. Prahasta had to act now. Sadhanur dhanvinam shreshto vikrushya paramahave nilaya vyasrujad vanan prahasto vahini patihi. Then Prahasta, the chief of Rakshasa forces, who was foremost among archers, set arrows to his bow fiercely and released them, attacking Nila. Nila was felled by those serpent-like arrows. Nila was badly hurt. He responded by plucking a huge tree and attacking Prahasta. Prastha was now struck hard and provoked into great fury. He escalated his attack on Nila. Nila closed his eyes as arrows came and pierced him all over. Nila stood like he says, uh, Valmiki says, just when there is a heavy monsoon rain, imagine a big bull standing in the rain, closing his eyes and unmindful of the rain. That is how Nila responded to Prahasta's arrows. Then Nila plucked a big palm tree and struck and killed Prahasta's chariot horses. He also attacked and broke Prahasta's bow itself. He just went, grabbed the bow and broke it into two pieces. Prastha now picked up a huge pestle, Musala, which in his hand was a mighty weapon. He leapt from the chariot and engaged Nila directly. Nila with his trees and Prastha with his pestle were made for each other. The battle raged violently, with each matching the other in speed and dexterity. Valmiki says they fought like two lions. Prastha struck Nila on his forehead, and as a result, Nila started bleeding profusely. But Nila was undeterred. He struck Prahasta on his chest with a huge tree. Prahasta was again unmindful as he was chasing Nila. Nila understood the force of the attack and suddenly picked up a huge rock. He struck Prahasta with lightning speed on his head. We must remember the Vanara's powers were mighty physical strength, instinct, ability to bear pain, and act so quickly that there is no response from the enemy. Prasta's head was now shattered, and Prasta died a gory death instantly. The Rakshasa warriors were deeply disheartened to see this, and they started running back into Lanka. And then they went and stood in front of Ravana in a pitiable state, trying to describe Prahasta's end. Nila, in the meanwhile, returned to the Vanara camp, receiving a standing ovation, which he richly deserved for his heroism from Sri Rama and everyone around. Sri Rama Jayam.